Welcome back to my channel, guys. So I thought that I would share my chunky traveler's notebook and what my intentions with my chunky traveler's notebook is for 2020. So she is definitely chunky and busting out the strings, but this is the only way that I love it. This is the only thing that I can stuff completely to the max. I love this thing. So I'll talk about that in a moment. I did used to use my traveler's notebook in conjunction with a pocket planner for 2019 at the very end, and I did do some planning in my chunky traveler's notebook. So some of these inserts aren't completely full, and then some of them I did use, and I'll show you guys that. So this was an insert that I had in there in my traveler's notebook. I did tracking on this same sheet for a couple of months. I think there's a total of maybe like 2 months of tracking on these little bitty trackers. And then I wrote in some routines for AM and PM, habits that I could track or would like to track, 10 tips for productivity, books that I wanted to read, and then I started to try to track for December, and then I would have been doing it on this side for January. But part of me just didn't want to continue with this booklet once we got into the new year. Also, I pulled this booklet out, and there's some highly sensitive information on the very back, like phone numbers. So I kept like some phone numbers and stuff in there that eventually I'll need to transfer. But for the most part, it's all in that booklet. Also, with my planning system that was in my traveler's notebook, I had a bill tracker, and this is what I am now doing in my personal rings. So although I'm not doing it anymore in my traveler's notebook, I still have this insert here which I was doing for bill tracking. So really it was just keeping track of like all of my bills, and then I did have it set up here for January, but of course I found it a little bit tedious to do all of this planning in my traveler's notebook when I'm already doing it in my personal rings. So I did away with it. This is a booklet that I'm gonna keep and then just return to it if I ever decide to go back to my traveler's notebook for planning. But for the most part, I've set that book to the side. Now, I did do daily planning in my traveler's notebook as well. Although I didn't do it as much in my traveler's notebook, I did do quite a bit. So I did write some sticky notes in here, and this is completely removable. I wrote a couple of sticky notes in here. I wrote out my daily tasks and to-dos and all of that. And also the weather. But for the most part, I've done a lot of this in my personal rings and pocket rings, so there was really no need for me to continue on with doing this in my traveler's notebook, seeing as how I already do this in my personal. As far as weekly, I had decided that I was doing away with the planning systems in my traveler's notebook, mainly because I'm not using it for planning this year. This was supposed to be January, so I was supposed to be using this for January, but decided to do away with it as I will be using it for a different purpose. Now, the reason why I did those little flips for you all is because I wanted to give you guys an idea of what I was doing in my traveler's notebook in the past. And if you would like to see a setup of what my traveler's notebook looked like when all of those inserts were inside of it, there is some videos still up with that setup of my traveler's notebook. These are the two inserts that I journaled in the most, with conjunction of another journal that I keep here on my desk, which is this bigger journal here. But these are the two that I relatively journaled in the most. I did it daily, I did it weekly, and I did it whenever I felt necessary to get something off my chest. This journal here was more of the lines of an art journal for me. I would paint the pages, draw, use colors, use stickers, and I would just do a lot of things. And here you can kind of see that I did this weekly and daily. So I would set out a week, or set the week up, and I would do a smidget journal each day. This to me was like a weekly recap or daily recap, because I wrote about my day, I wrote about the things that I got done in that day, and so this was like a mini journal for me. And then again, I continued to decorate the pages, and then of course I used like some fabric sticker sheets. So yeah, I used this religiously, and I did finish it out for the year of 2019. Now, this wasn't something that I originally started in. I started very late doing this, but it was something that I started, and then I just finished it out as time went on. So for January, I really wanted to change things up a bit, and that's why I decided to do away with this kind of system. I did recap my entire time throughout December 1st through the 31st, but here I really just took the highlighted moments and captured the holidays. So I recapped the time I spent with my husband and did all of these things that I would like to do going forward in January. Now 2020 came, and it was New Year's, and I kind of just wrote out my intentions, my goals, my plans, everything that I wanted to accomplish and set forth in the new year. And then I continued on to do what I was doing in the previous months of 2019 in here. So I did a whole spread for January 2nd and January 4th, and then I just stopped. I stopped doing it because I realized that the way that this was set up, it wasn't making me happy anymore, and I felt like I needed a change. I needed a change of inserts, a change of scenery in my traveler's notebook. Part of one of my goals this year is to spend less money and stay in one planner. So I'm using a personal rings. That is what I want to use. And I'm also backing things up digitally just to cut down on a lot of the bulk. And with all of that being said, I still need a place to put my personal thoughts, my art, my everyday, you know, things that I deal with, like things related to my health. Although I have a small health section in my planner, I still need to put things that are very personal and sensitive to me somewhere else where it's out of the public eye. In here, I kept like food recipes, things that I liked. I did a lot of YouTube brainstorming in the very beginning. Though I didn't know what to do with all of this, I still wrote it down. These were all of my intentions, my goals, things that I wanted to get off of my mind, because I have a lot of ideas for YouTube, believe it or not, but I just don't know how to quite execute these things that I have in my mind. I also wrote my planning routines in there, what I wanted them to be, how I wanted them to be, and of course, any journaling, any rants, I put those in here. I wrote down some things like the 5 W's of life. These are also things that I will be transferring into my new planner, or not new planner, my new journal. But again, I journaled a lot in here, and as time went on, I realized that I really loved journaling most in my traveler's notebook. It was a sense of, you know, somewhere where I could just open and see all of these things, and I could just journal away versus doing it in the bigger journal. And I used my stencils, I used stickers. So this is what is happening for the new journals. So this is my traveler's notebook. It is massive, it's chunky, it's busting out of the rings. None of these inserts that I have in here are meant for a standard TN. So, of course, the zip pouches, the card pouches, they are definitely meant for a standard TN. But as far as like the notebooks, there's only one notebook in here that's actually meant for a standard TN, and that is my calendar. And also this pocket or folder, craft folder here. But as far as the rest of the notebooks, I cut them down to size, and just put them in here. So a lot of these notebooks are A5 size, and all I did was take my paper cutter and cut them down. I really like these designs, so that is why I chose something that wasn't meant for standard tin. I know you can buy inserts that are already decorative, but it was just cheaper for me to get them from the store. So what my intentions is for this new journal is the only insert that I have in here for planning is my calendar. And this is what I was using for 2019 and what is going into 2020, because I still have so many months that I could fill out. So this is the only insert out of my planning section that will be transferring into the new year. I plan to use a notebook for like recipes. I do want to create like a recipes notebook for like all the things that we like to eat, different meals I would like to make, and so forth. And then again, I would like to do tracking, but I would like to do like creative art tracking. So this will be a notebook that I'll be using it for. And if you're wondering what they look like on the inside, they're just lined pages. And they're from the brand Studio O. This will continue to be in my traveler's notebook, which is just my calendar. And all I have in this craft folder is just some stickers. Also a little sheet which has some codes on the back. And in the back, there's a year overview. So when I do fill out these monthly pages, I can look at this. I do have some flags in here and some sticky notes. I keep all of the cards that I'm not using, cards that are irrelevant to me, certain bank cards that are irrelevant to me right now, because if you haven't noticed, we are a military family. We're in the Air Force, and a lot of these cards are for the States, and we are not living in the States right now. So I just house these cards here because this journal typically never leaves the house. I did keep pictures of my husband in here, things that I would like to remain into my journal. And then here are the journals in the back. So they have a thing where you can swap out the notebooks as you complete them. You can swap them out as you finish them out. But for me, I like my notebooks to not move, because when they move around, it irks me when the notebooks move around and stuff. So I actually made this really tight so that they stay put in place. So I have quite a few journals in here that I can use for the duration of the year. Now, I figured this is enough to get me through the entire year. I can journal away in these notebooks in the back, and that's what I kind of have set here. If I want to do weekly or daily planning in here, I have a notebook to do so, but again, like I mentioned, I'm using my personal rings, but I do have a space where I can do it like I was doing in the past. But for the most part, this would be my journaling section. So it doesn't matter which notebook I chose, because I just plan on using this for like journal, notes, other things like that. This pocket definitely stayed the same. The only difference is I have added like some little memorabilia type of things, like postcards, stuff we got from when we went to Cologne, because we are living in Germany, tickets from a cruise that we took back in August. So my whole intentions with my traveler's notebook is to really fill this thing with thoughts, memories, things I like, and not so much of the planning aspect. So maybe I could use this notebook for bucket lists and different places, and just like memories from like all over Europe, because we are here for 3 years. And then like as I collect things, I can use it like a scrapbook. And then this notebook here, I've kind of started, I did go ahead and put like my my little codes at the bottom here. It was just something that I had in a previous planner that I had in my traveler's notebook. But I did put my little goals in here, and I wrote out my goals for 2020. So I did go ahead and transfer that information. And then also my planning routine. This, I want to use it for my journal, yes, and anything that comes to mind, any ideas, any thoughts, anything that I want to write down that I could really execute out throughout this year. So I have a long list of goals on the back side, or I'm sorry, on the front side here. I have a long list of goals, and this may be long to me and short to some, but it's a long list of goals that I want to kind of execute out. And as things come to me, I want to really put them down on paper and really get out my thought process and just scribble away, color away, draw away. And I figured that my traveler's notebook was a happy place for me for journaling and for jotting things down. So that is what this area is going to be. Now, I do have a note section in my planner, my ring planner, and I will be using that note section for notes, but it will mainly be geared towards actual things that I need to get done. This is my happy place. This is my creative space. So that's where a lot of my creative thoughts will go. They will go into my traveler's notebook. And again, if I ever decide to plan in my traveler's notebook again, I can definitely do so in here. But this insert was an actual A5 notebook. On the back of this, there is some writing. It just says write it down. But I got these notebooks from our local mall, and I just cut them down. I just took my paper cutter, as you can see, I took my paper cutter and I just cut them down. These particular notebooks, the cover was a little thick, so I kind of just went over it with some of this little fabric sticker sheet paper, but for the most part, this is what they look like. Now, this one says write it down, but this one says notebook, and it just says this journal belongs to on the cover page, and then of course it's just lined paper, and then you get these little bookmarks at the end. So I figured I would use these as like my journals and stuff like that, mainly because I just really love the way that they look. Now I have this journal in here, which is volume 2. So I do have a bigger journal that I used to use for quite some years, and I did a lot of journaling in there, a lot of memory keeping in there, and it was just too big to fill. So this is volume 2, and I will be doing the same thing as I was doing in that journal, which is just, you know, random doodles, random everything, just, you know, bucket list, same thing. So my whole traveler's notebook is supposed to be my happy place, and again, it's chunky, it's super chunky. I think that I love it this way. I think that some of you love it this way. I know there's going to be some people that's just like, nah, that's not for me, and that's okay. But this is my happy place, and these inserts make me extremely happy to see, and I can't wait to see what I write in them. I can't wait to see what memories I jot down in my calendar. I can't wait to see what I draw and doodle and post on these pages, and I just have a lot of plans for 2020. But guys, that is it. I just wanted to show you guys my traveler's notebook and what my intentions are going to be for 2020. Again, if you liked the video, please give me a big thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, welcome. It's so great to have you. If you're returning to my channel, welcome back. It's also so great to have you. And as always, guys, thank you so much for staying with me and rocking out. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.